Hello and welcome back to the Vinyl Biography Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Smith, and today I'm so excited to share with you the spectacular guest we have on the show, Ben Wysocki from the Fray. He's a drummer. He's a studio musician here and there. He produces things. He works to kind of spread the music love around Denver, Colorado. He's traveled the world playing drums for the Fray and also looking for records. So he's got some great stories, some great records. I'm so excited to be able to share this conversation with you. Now, just a heads up before we get started, this is kind of a long one, guys. This is the longest podcast I've done so far. Hopefully it'll keep your attention. But me and Ben, we just get along so well that we just kind of got carried away. We talked for about an hour and a half, but I cut it down to an hour. So hope you guys enjoy this. This is Ben's Vinyl Biography. Okay, Ben. So happy to have you on the show. Now your last name is Wysocki? Wysocki?
Yeah, Wysocki, but yeah, that's it.
Okay, so before I interview someone, I like to go and see. I already know a good bit about you because of just over the years getting to know you a little bit. But I went online. And I looked you up on YouTube just to see like what I might find. And I don't know if you know this. There's this hilarious video on YouTube of this girl.
Where's Ben Wysocki?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Have you ever met her?
No, I don't think so. I don't think she's ever found me. She never found me.
It's such a funny video. Like, it's not funny. It's funny to me because it's so stupid, but it also, like,
yeah,
I don't know, she just chose you, and like, it's like, seriously, for those that are listening that haven't seen it, probably like an 8 or 9 minute long video of her going up to random people asking, have you seen Ben Wysocki?
I like that you say, for those who haven't seen it, like, you assume that everyone has. Like, no one's seen that.
So it has like 4,000 views, but it's funny to me. I mean, if it was about me, I guess I would have seen it, but it's just hilarious. I was like, what in the world is this? And I expected at the end of the video for her to find you, but she didn't.
No, I don't. I still don't think she has.
She called some old man.
Yeah.
Named Ben Wysocki. He's like, I'm surprised that she said, hey, Ben Wysocki, my name's Ben Wysocki. And he goes, I'm surprised your name's Ben Wysocki. You don't sound like a Ben. Who are your parents?
Who are your parents? I might know them. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
She's like, why is he so old? But anyways, that's funny. But anyway, I just thought I'd see if you'd seen it. I figured maybe you had, but
yeah,
that is so funny. But what's funny is that video is probably 10 years old. She's probably a grown woman with kids and stuff now. You know, like she probably has some sense about her. Yeah. You know, if you met her, she probably would be like, oh yeah.
Yeah, right. She's
anyways.
That. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. When I was in college, I made a parody video that had a Fray song in it. It was to the tune of "You Found Me." But I had this little side hustle in college. I forgot about it till just now, but I would in all my classes I would write songs with information about our exams in the song. So, and then it would all rhyme and everything, and people loved it. And I'd make CDs for people. And so one of the songs was "You Found Me," and I don't even remember what subject it was on, but people loved it. I'd write rap songs and stuff.
Oh my god, algebra.
But it would be stock full of knowledge, and people would remember it.
That's
and then
amazing.
They would do really well on the tests.
This kind of reminds me. You should like make that a thing, like those CDs you make. It kind of is like the equivalent to like Kids Bop, like, you know, they do like the kids versions of popular songs. You could do like educational versions of popular songs. I think
we can't air this part because we got to do this.
Yeah, edit that out so no one steals our idea.
So I guess I just to give everybody introduction, me and Ben, I don't remember when we met. I mean, we met virtually on the interweb long before we met in person. That only that one time. But so I guess it was probably pretty early on, because I know I sold you some Soundgarden records that I still really miss.
Oh yeah,
probably like 2014 or so. So I guess it was about 2010 or no, it was 2012, I think. Your album, Scars and Stories came out, and oh man,
Yeah.
I loved that album. And at the time,
Thanks.
yeah, it was I don't know, that was my favorite one that you guys did. But at the time, I was working at a car dealership, and I was working full time in a car dealership, part time doing landscaping, and I listened to that album all the time. So it kind of brings me back to that time. And then like when you started following me on Instagram, I was like fangirl, and I was like, he's the guy from the Fray. You know, so excited about it. But then like I guess like a couple months ago, I was at a pop up, and you just showed up, and you're from, I don't know, 2,000 miles away. So
Yeah.
I was like, what? You know, so
Yeah.
that was a great surprise.
Yeah, we had I can't remember, like, my side of the story. I remember just, like, I don't know what it was, if it was through Instagram or Discogs or eBay or whatever, that I bought a record from you. And then you were like, wisely so, you were like, hey, if you like this, I got other stuff like this if you need anything. And then I remember, like, in my record collecting career, I'll say, you were the first. Like, I remember telling people, like, I think I have like a guy now. I have like a hook. Like, I don't and I kind of like got self-conscious about, like, wow, I'm really like taking this whole record thing to another level. I have like this guy that I'm like, hey, you don't happen to have this, do you? And like, you were this mystical, like, wizard behind the curtain, and that would just make records appear in my mailbox.
Oh,
it was like
man.
really, really. If I thought eBay was dangerous for buying records, you just took that to a whole new level.
My whole car salesman background kind of,
there you go.
It's not that I'm trying to make money. It's like, oh, if you like this, you should hear this. This is great, And then,
right.
It ends up being hundreds of dollars.
And then so the Fray played a one-off in Charlotte, it was a private gig for Bank of America, and like one of the guys that works for a management company was there, and we had just finished having some fried chicken, and he's like, well, man, there's this, like, my buddy here said there's like a record pop-up, like, record sale at like a brewery, and I had totally forgot, like, I didn't put two and two together that you lived in Charlotte. I just totally forgot about that. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like, I have nothing else to do. We'd finished sound check. We're just like wasting time before the show, and any excuse to go buy records. I'm like, yep. And so we just got in an Uber or Lyft. It was actually Lyft, and went, and I just walked into this brewery, and I was like, look at this. Of course it's this guy. So yeah, it was awesome, man. It was like such a cool, pleasant surprise. I'm glad it happened.
Yeah, me too. And I was really super bummed out because you invited me to the show afterwards. And I felt like such an old man because I couldn't come. Like, I was like totally down for it. But we had rented this truck, and this sale was so big. I had 15,000 records. And by the time I had loaded the truck and been done with it, I had been working on it since 5 o'clock that morning. Oof. Just to get super personal, the inside of my thighs were bleeding of chafe, and I just could not move.
Wow.
And so it was bad. It was the worst I think I've ever felt, and maybe the best I've ever felt. It was so good. It was a great day. But it was like, so I got home that night, and literally I was just passed out on the couch, and I'm like
bleeding.
My wife, I'm like, I'm an old man. I just got invited backstage, VIP, all exclusive access to a Fray show. They probably would let me come on stage with them, and I just
whoa, hey, slow down. And you couldn't because your thighs were bleeding.
Yeah, no, there was no way that, and I'm being a little extreme there, but it was definitely an issue. But anyways,
that's hilarious.
Fire hazard down there. So getting into the podcast here. So I know you're a big record fan. Have you always collected vinyl, or did you just kind of get back into it at a certain point?
No, I haven't always. No, I mean, because music has always been such a big part of my life, like making music, listening to music. I've been playing drums since I was in diapers, so I've just kind of like orbited around music for a long time. And so I've collected music for a long time, but in the actual format of vinyl, not for, I would say maybe just within the last like 15 years. I used to, like, my earliest memory of collecting music was like going to like used CD stores, and like there was this one here in the suburbs of Denver called Disco Round, and I would go in there and just like, the CDs were like $4 whatever. I'm buying like Sister Hazel and Beck and Hootie and the Blowfish and Tori Amos, the CDs. And I still have like all of my CDs in boxes somewhere. I don't remember where, but no, the record, and I think I just sort of fell into it. Like I just kind of naturally fell into it, probably with the shift in the industry of them just kind of like them being more of a presence. I mean, there was definitely some like thrifting, like thrift store kind of, record buying going on for sure.
So when did it start for you? I mean, the vinyl end, when did that start for you?
I feel like I was predisposed to it because my dad I remember when I was a kid, like he didn't have a ton of records, but the ones he did, like I remember he was a really big, well still is a really big Chicago fan, that band Chicago. And I remember like all of their, for anyone who doesn't know, like all of their record covers, and there's like they have like 30 albums or something. It's crazy, and all the record covers have a different, it's like they have this one logo, this sort of cursive font that says Chicago. And I remember like every one of them's like one of them is like that logo is like etched into wood. Another one is it's like a chocolate bar with the wrapper coming away. One of them. Yeah, there's one that's like gold. It looks like it's gold. Another one is like, it looks like it's sort of like punched out of like metal, like aluminum. And then this other one looks like it's like being like these guys are painting the logo on the side of a building, like, and I just remember, and they were always embossed, like, so I remember these records, like the music I thought at the time was awful, but I just remember like my first experience of like the format was like sitting on the floor in the basement with these Chicago records, like rubbing my hand over the embossed like Chicago logo, and like was just so like fascinated with the tactile experience of that. It was like the Chicago records, and then like Simon and Garfunkel Bookends was like the only other one I have like a really specific memory of, and that had like this picture, the cover's like this black and white picture of the two of them, and they're like wearing turtlenecks. Like that's the detail I remember, is that they were wearing turtlenecks. I remember being like, why? How can you make such beautiful music and wear turtlenecks? It just didn't make sense to me.
I mean, it gets like, cold.
Wow, I guess it gets cold down there. Those lonely, sad songs. Anyways, so that like, those were my first memory or like experience with like a record. Like, and then there was probably like an Amy Grant record in there, and like a Sandy Patty record probably. So yeah, then I kind of like I feel like that was a seed, like the seed was planted way back then of like just that my love for the tactile experience of a record, and then fast forward to me, probably actually me buying records didn't really start to get serious until my career with the Fray was well underway, and I think it started with me like buying records on tour, and which the story I just told about Charlotte, it was just kind of like having a couple hours and killing time by going and buying records. It's like I've done that. I mean, probably 3/4 of the records maybe not, maybe half of them I've bought on tour, because I just love like experiencing the local record store, but then also like I would take them back, to the hotel room, and just spend like time with my stack that I just bought, unwrapping them, peeling the annoying stickers off, like just like liner notes, and then that turned into like, well, I need a portable record player now. So then I'd travel with a little Crosley for the hotel room, and then that wasn't enough for the dressing room. So then I had this like custom case. This is like as the career's developing and we have more money and like whatever, like I had this custom case designed, and I convinced the other guys in the band, like, we're all going to benefit from this. Don't worry. You're going to love it. And like we spent all this money in this custom road case that would go into the truck with all the gear every night, but it had like a Technics 1200 in it, and then it had these like Bowers and Wilkins bookshelf speakers and like an amp and an iPod dock, and it was like
that is so awesome.
It was it was amazing. It was like this $7,000 stereo in our dressing room, and then I had drawers for records, because really it was just like I just need a place to put all these. When I buy them, I can't, like, they're not fitting my suitcase, and so I'd like load. We'd start the tour, this case would be empty, and I would just load it up, over the course of the tour.
That is so awesome. So
yeah, it was really.
Do you guys still use it?
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, it's lived a rough life. It like was in every dressing room with us for like, a while, like maybe 5 or 6 years, and it got pretty beat up.
Well, I mean, kudos to you for choosing the 1200. That's like a tank. That's a perfect choice.
Well, right. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, I thought, like, if it's that record player's made for, like, sitting on a table and someone drunkenly bumping into the DJ booth or whatever, and I feel like, it could withstand, like, roadies hauling it in and out of our stupid dressing room every day. And I mean, it wasn't a small case, and sometimes our crew and the local hands would, they weren't exactly excited about hauling that, like, up 3 flights of stairs at the Chicago Theater or whatever. But it was good vibes.
Man, that is so cool. Now, I just want to go ahead and just say, off the record, if you guys ever get rid of that thing, please call me. Awesome.
We might just piece. We might just piece it out. Like, the case itself is one thing, and then, like, the techniques and then the Bowers and Wilkins, like, we'll probably fight over it. If it makes it out of the 4 of us, we'll probably fight over it. But I'll keep you in mind.
Well, that's just cool to me. That's such a cool story. But anyways, gosh, that's so funny. So are any of the other guys into it, like vinyl, or is it just you?
No, man, I'm an island there. It's just me. Like, some of the other, I mean, we all are muso nerds, and so yeah, they all have, like, Isaac got way into it and for a minute, and like I remember one time we were in Nashville and he went to Grimey's and bought, like, he just had, like, we met the owner of Grimey's and we were chatting about stuff, and Isaac went back like the next day and was just like, I think he was like printed out a list. I don't know if this is totally accurate, so he might hate me if I'm, yeah, but whatever, I'll see it. He like printed out the list of like Rolling Stones 500 greatest albums of all time or whatever, and just went to Grammys and was like, how many of these do you have? And like bought like all of them. Probably not all of them, but anyways, so he's got a fair amount of records, but like I don't think it's stuck on like a habitual, or it's not a habit or an addiction really, like it is with me.
So what are some record stores like that you've been to that are like stand out in your mind around the U.S.? Thought your favorites.
Yeah. Oh, man, in the U.S.
Or not the U.S.
Yeah. Well, Mississippi Records in Portland is amazing. It's like it's a record store and a label and like a venue and like all in one. And the store itself is not very big. I mean, there's the whole sort of like family of like, Amoeba, Newberry Comics, and like those kind of record stores, that like big, huge record stores that also sell like a Bert Simpson bobblehead, you know? Or like bacon socks at the checkout, whatever. Yeah. But like, and those are great. Those are great record stores for like, if you have like a shopping list of like, oh, I need the new such and such and like this and that. And you go in and like fulfill your shopping list, get your like eggs and bread and milk, and then but then like stores like Mississippi Records in Portland to me feel like you just go in to without any like, any agenda really. Yeah, it's like they probably do have the new Sharon Van Etten record, but they might not.
Yeah.
And so I've had some pretty cool like discovery moments there. There's another like wild, I don't even know if it's still open. There's this store in Dallas called Bob's, just like Bob's Records, and to call it a store is a stretch. Do you know Bob's?
Yeah.
Anything about Bob's?
Yeah, we drove through. We did a transcontinental road trip. And it wasn't transcontinental. It was, but we drove all the way to New Mexico and back, and we hit every big city all the way there and back as we could. So yeah, we went to Bob's. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a Bob's. Like I don't remember like any like gold mine like finds. Yeah. Like of like a really special record that I found there, but like just the experience was just like, for anyone who hasn't been, it is this huge. My memory of it was this huge warehouse with just ridiculous amounts of like big industrial shelving and boxes, like not really anything categorized or organized, and then Bob sitting behind this desk with this little TV that like had like, it was the kind of TV that had the VHS slot in the front of it, and he was like watching some bizarre old movie, and he kind of acknowledged me when I walked in and kind of didn't, and then like because he was kind of busy but also not at all, and then like, he was just every once in a while he'd yell like, hey, let me know if you need any help, and then I kind of came up. There's no prices or anything on anything, and I just kind of came up to his desk with a stack, and then there's like pictures of like him and Johnny Greenwood like embracing, and like I'm like, what? Or like him and Michael Stipe like eating a sandwich. I was like, what? Who is this guy? It's just like so bizarre and awesome, and I just like wanted to be. It was just like somewhere I just wanted to be and like hang out. For it's just like felt so awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, then there's the like, I mean, Grimey's is awesome. I love Grimey's. And there's just like, most of those kind of places come with just really great, great people as well, and for those big box, those sort of independent, bigger ones like the Amoebas and whatever, it's kind of like, I have nothing bad to say, about those. I love it. I've spent like some incredible afternoons of my life in Amoeba, and and like Newberry in Boston, and what's the big one in Austin? I'm spacing the name right now. The big Austin record store.
Yeah, I didn't go to it. End of Veneer?
But yeah,
is it End of Veneer?
No, well, I don't. Yeah, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Yeah,
so many.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, I stopped at a bunch of record stores on the way there and back, and I love record stores. And if I ever opened up one, it would be probably more like Bob's than like a normal one, because that's just how I roll. But I love getting and going in people's basements and digging and like like
Waterloo. That's what I was thinking of in Austin.
Okay,
sorry, it just came to me.
I blew through Austin and I hit a couple shops. There's one called BLK. If you've ever been to that one, it's kind of newer. The guy, like, if you're into like really rare stuff, he's got some incredible stuff. I got some awesome stuff there. But yeah, we hit Dallas, Waco, Austin, San Antonio in one day. So we were blowing through, and then we spent the night in Lubbock, which is all the way back up at the top of Texas. So, but yeah, that's really cool. But
I've also had like I've had some like incredible New York like record buying experiences. I feel like every time I go to New York, there was a different record store that I hadn't been to. Like for a while there, every time we'd go to New York, I'd go to Other Music, which was just like, it's smaller and a little newer. It's like a very like kind of curated, like they have very specific things. It's not just like boxes and boxes of records.
Yeah.
But what they do have is always just so good. Wow. But it's been just like it's way too much there. And then Bleecker Bob's as well is just like Well, was, I guess, rest in peace.
Oh,
Bleecker Bob's was so great. Anyways, yeah, just like so many.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I
many
went
great
to I went to like maybe 15 stores when we went on our trip, and the one here in Charlotte, I think there's one in Charlotte and one in Asheville that are great, and I can't say that any record store I went to was any better than those, but yeah, so that's cool. So what was the first album, if you can remember, an album that you bought with your own money that you were like excited to go to, wherever and pick it up? Could you have an album like that in memory?
Oh man. Yeah. Man, to be honest with you, in the format of vinyl, I don't.
Or no, it could be cassette,
remember,
CD.
But just like anything, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this definitely wasn't my first, but it's maybe the most distinct memory, like.
Yeah.
And that was Radiohead's "Hail to the Thief," or "Hail to the Thief." And I remember at the time that it came out, I was working at Nordstrom. In the mailroom, like the shipping department at Nordstrom, and I would show up at like 4 or 5 in the morning and unload the truck of the new clothes and then wheel it around to each appropriate department and have it all in the prospective departments by the time the store opened at 9. And then when the store opened, I was essentially done, so I'd be leaving by like 10 or 11 or something, right around the time that Best Buy was opening. And I just remember the day that the new Radiohead record came out. It was like a big day for me and all my friends. Same with Wilco's Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Like I have a very similar memory with that record. And I mean, like Hail to the Thief isn't my favorite Radiohead record, but it's like I specifically remember getting off work at Nordstrom and driving straight, like the Nordstrom is in this mall, the Flatirons Mall north of Denver, and I left the mall and drove like across the parking lot to the Best Buy, went straight in, knew exactly what I was like, bloop, end cap, new Radiohead record, got it, straight out. I was like in and out in like 4 minutes. I had it unwrapped before I got to the car, and I just sat in my car and like flipped through those liner notes. And, I mean, that certainly was not the first that I bought, but that's a really distinct memory of like saving time and setting time aside and money. I was like anticipating that release day, which used to be Tuesday. Release day used to be Tuesdays.
Right.
It's Fridays now, and so it was probably a Tuesday. But and then one of my earliest memories of like my own music was an MC Hammer cassette tape.
Oh yeah.
That I must have purchased. I don't know how, but like, and my mom didn't love that I had that. But I definitely remember, like, this sounds weird, but I remember the way that the cassette, like the paper sleeve inside the cassette smelled. Like, I don't know if it was like the ink. The ink they used or the paper quality, but I just remember the way that MC Hammer sleeve smelled, which sounds so weird, but like I can still think of it now. Oh my god.
Oh, I can't touch that smell. Oh gosh. We need to pray just to make it today.
Just to make it today.
He's I saw and funny, the last podcast I recorded one the other day, and somebody talked about the same cassette. But yeah.
No way, really?
Yeah. MC
Amazing.
Hammer. Was it? No, To the Extreme was Vanilla Ice. I can't remember what MC Hammer's was called, but yeah, that's so funny. I saw MC Hammer live a few years ago. Well, a few years ago. I guess it's been about 15 years now. But
yeah, that's a few. Just the other day. The other day. It was a reunion tour.
I was I saw some pictures of you like 10 or 15 years ago. I guess when the Fray started, and I was like, he looks the same. Like,
that's not true.
How do you look the same?
That's definitely not true. You must have me confused with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Well, no. If you look at me 10 years ago, I was 140 pounds, no facial hair, I was totally looked like a completely different person. So I have not aged well. But
it's all the records,
it's all
dude.
the records, man. They make me old.
So it's bleeding thighs.
I know. So when you're listening to like, I mean, I think when I'm following you on Instagram and stuff, it seems like you're always looking at new music, listening to new music, always trying to stay relevant. You know, I know you produce a lot of things now, and you work on a bunch of side projects and stuff. You know, talk to me a little bit about like your music discovery, finding new things, like anything that's like inspiring you right now. What's that process look like for you?
Yeah, man. Music discovering new music is like, man, that's been a passion of my, that makes me feel like alive, like few other things do, and has for a long time. And it's obviously changed. Like it's gone from like, I remember an ad. I remember buying Rolling Stone magazine from Barnes and Noble. Like before I could drive, I'd go with my mom to Barnes and Noble, and like I would buy the Rolling Stone magazine. I remember this ad for Wilco's Yankee Hotel Foxtrot, and I didn't know who Wilco was, but the ad said, for fans of Radiohead and Jeff Buckley. And I had just like that month or something, somebody had played me Grace, Jeff Buckley's Grace. So literally blew my mind. And that was like raw, like my mind was still blown, like and off. And I saw that ad, like for fans of Radiohead and Jeff Buckley, and I was like, I have to, whatever this is, I have to have it. So my music discovery's gone from that, like a literal ad in Rolling Stone magazine, which is amazing, to now like to like a Spotify playlist. Yeah. Oh, and like, which is awesome. So I guess point being, like the music discovery thing is so broad and wide, and I love it, and I just can I never can get enough of that fix. But it comes from all over the place now, me reading or like people posting things on social media, through conversation. I have a friend named Darren King who used to play drums in the band Mute Math. Yeah. And they opened for us on a tour a while back, and at the end of the tour he made each of us a mixtape as like a thank you, thanks for having us on tour, here's a mix. And it was the CD, like a CDR in like an envelope, like a manila, like the yellow envelope. And he had written the track listing on the outside of the envelope. And I don't know if I've told him this, but like it was on that mix that I discovered Jay Dilla, and Daniel Johnston was on there, and Billy Bragg. And like I remember those three I'd never heard of before, and I was like, whoa. Billy Bragg didn't stick nearly as much as Jay Dilla and Daniel Johnston, but like that was, again, I was just like, I remember looking at this track listing that Darren had written out on the envelope in his own handwriting of these songs, and just being like, I could not wait to like listen to that CD and discover, and then read and Google these people, and then like just get in this Wikipedia black hole, which I still do, and I love it.
Yeah, I think we all do that.
Yeah. And now even just like in Denver, there's this new radio station, a Colorado public radio station called Open Air, that's like new and independent music, but then also like REM and stuff. But it's awesome. It's really incredible. And now it's like, this is not a accidental plug. I'm like praising them because I will discover music on the radio again, which hasn't happened. It's like the olden days. That's what people used to like. If you're hearing something on the radio, like discovering music on the radio for the first time. Now I feel like if you hear something on the radio, if something is on the radio, you've probably already heard it, but this radio station here in Denver, I just love putting it on and like shazamming like every third song. I'm like, what is this? Yeah. And I love it. Like, I just love it. I eat it up. So yeah, that's kind of like the whole you know, all of that music discovery, and then obviously like digging at record stores and like really good record store employees who are actually engaged and care, like conversations at the counter of like once they see what I bought, you know, like sometimes the dudes are like whatever, it's like total like Jack Black high fidelity dudes that are like whatever, get out, you're wasting my time, get out of here.
That Safe as Milk scene is so good.
That
guy wants to buy that copy of Safe as Milk, he's like, nah, I'm not gonna sell it.
No. Yeah.
Somebody came up to me. It was so funny because I had a record show, and someone had just traded in a first pressing of Save As Milk, and I had been looking for it for forever. And my friend came over, and he's like, "Can I look through your trade-ins?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes through, and it was the same scene. I swear. He's like, "I want this." I'm like, "Nah,
no." You're like, "Oh, I'm that guy."
I'm like, "Dang it, I can't." But it's like with the record store employees, you either got like the ones that are like the true nerd record collectors that are just not social and do not want to help you, or you've got the ones that are so excited about sharing new things and like talking about
and
it.
Both of those characters are awesome. Like both of those guys, I love them.
Absolutely.
But I will have like, I remember one time at this record store in Boulder, like years ago, I bought a somebody was like, I just remember a lot of people talking about Built to Spill, and like there was all this talk and buzz around Built to Spill. Like this was a while ago, obviously. So I was like, oh, I should buy a Built to Spill record, and so I did. And I'm at the counter, I'm like checking out, and this guy, the employee who was ringing me up, it was so awesome. He's like, oh man, he's like, he like saw this Built to Spill record. He's like, I know you're like checking out here, but like, do you have like budget for one more? Can I sell you on one more record? Like, do you have money for one more record or like CDs? I think, you know. And I was like, I mean, I guess okay. He's like, okay, follow me. And he like left my whole stack at the counter. I think there's even maybe like a line of a couple of people that were like, what the heck? And like he went, and the singer from Built to Spill, I just remember his first name was Doug, I don't remember his last name, had just put out like a solo record. And he's like, dude, this is so good. This is the singer. And he's like, it's really, and he's like, if you like Built to Spill, I didn't know anything about Built to Spill, but he thought I did. So he's like, it's like for fans of Built to Spill, but like, you know, blah, blah. And it really was really great. I loved it. But I just loved that he was like so psyched about it.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't about you selling it to you making the money. It was about, you know, introducing you to something, you know.
Totally. I may have even put one back to make room for that in my budget. I don't remember, but yeah, it was just, that's the best.
That's funny. So I saw you posted like an Instagram story about Townes Van Zandt. You had like every Townes Van Zandt record. Have you been listening to Townes for a while, or are you just getting into him, or what?
No, no, I haven't. And I'm relatively uneducated and unlearned there around Townes. Like that genre, to me, is so deep.
Yeah.
And the influence that he's had has reached so far that I like, it just got to the point where like his name was coming up so much for me.
Yeah.
And I knew, like, you know, like Poncho and Lefty and whatever, like, but I feel like so many different people would reference Townes, from like current folk artists all the way back to like outlaw country guys, and so I just finally was like, okay, I need to do this, and there's still some artists that I haven't really actually like really actually gotten into. And so sometimes if I'm able to, I'll just buy up like a whole, like if I'm at a record store or if it's online, I'll just get like a bunch of that one artist and then just like wrap myself in it for like a few weeks to get like a full picture of the catalog. And because sometimes you can take like one particular thing out of context, or you might ask one person like, okay, what's the first, like, I'm trying to get into Townes Van Zandt, what record should I, and like everyone will say something different. So
yeah, that's true. I mean, like for me, I had listened to Townes' first record a long time ago because that was happening to me. I kept hearing his name and I'm like, I gotta check it out. And I listened to his first record, I'm like, don't care for it, hard pass, and kept going. And so like now, like I guess it was a few weeks ago. Like, I keep hearing about it, and everyone's like, "You gotta listen to Towns Van Zandt." And I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's like that, but it's like a lot of people don't really listen to him that much. Maybe he's too hard to get into. I don't know, but like, I had seen a YouTube video. He was he had gone back home to the house he grew up in, and he was sitting there playing that song "Waiting Around to Die," and his neighbor was this old black guy, and he's sitting there listening to him singing this song "Waiting Around to Die," and he just starts just crying, you know. And I was like, it's such a powerful video, and I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's incredible.
Wow.
So
Can you send that to me?
Yes, I'll send it to you.
I want to see that.
It is incredible. But like, it's just so emotional and raw because it's real. I mean, you know, he's talking about in the song, just talking about how hard of a life he's had and like all these different things he's tried and nothing's worked and all this stuff. And this old guy's just like, I don't know, he's feeling it, man. But like,
wow, yeah.
And so I was like, I gotta listen to him, and then I pulled him up on my Apple Music or whatever, and I was like, I gotta just dive in somewhere. And his self-titled record is actually his third record, and I was like, maybe this was different. And I listened to it, and dude, it completely blew my mind. His self-titled is my favorite. It's raw acoustic, you know, and that's just, after that, man, I went to a black hole of Towns Van Zandt for about a month. Yeah. And it was all I listened to. I'm telling you, it was like, no other music matters. This is the best.
Like you said, it's like the power of a story, right? And that's, I kind of feel like you have to spend enough time to like, and be in the right place to really like, even like want to be told a story. Yeah. Really is what it is. It's not just like, because it's not the most sonically pleasing all the time, and his voice, it doesn't sound like Sam Smith, so you know. It's like but the story, man, the power of the story is like,
and like when he was a kid, he was bipolar, and his parents sent him off to a psychiatric ward, and they did insulin shock therapy. They'd inject him with a ton of insulin, and then he would go into coma for a week at a time and then come back, and then they would try some more things, and then they do it again. So it was experimental, obviously was not effective, but he lost his entire early childhood memory completely. Like, he couldn't remember anything before he was like 18 years old. So, oh my gosh. Yeah, I know. So, but then he wrote Poncho and Lefty, and he said when he wrote it, it just was like, he's like, I can't even take credit for writing it because it just came to me out of nowhere, all of it. And if you think how deep that song is, like, he said he just sat down and played it, and it was like one take done. And then like 2 weeks later, he's watching this movie of Pancho Villa, and his sidekick, his name was, this in a Spanish translation, Lefty, or Left Hand, or something like that. And then he realized that he had written a song about a story that he never heard before, but I think he probably heard it when he was a kid, you know, or something like that.
Yeah, it was in there down deep,
you know. And so that's just like so cool. Sorry, that's a nerd moment for you. I love Towns Van Zandt. Anyways,
no, that's beautiful.
I just, gosh, man, it's so cool. But he's just,
I had this cool, like, just to like on the just music story thing. I discovered this record actually at Mississippi Records in Portland. There was like a staff picks shelf where, like, you know, Stephanie likes these records or whatever, and there was this record that just the cover, and also that there's like the staff picks. I was like, okay, I think I could trust them, and then this cover looked so great, and I bought it, and then just like, it was in the stack. Like, I'll buy a bunch of records at a time, and then when I get home I have a whole stack, and sometimes some get lost in that shuffle, and then like, so I don't think I listened to this for like a little while after I bought all those, but it's the score, the soundtrack for this old Peter Fonda like Western film called The Hired Hand, and but the guy who did it, the score, the soundtrack, his name is Bruce Langhorne, and he was like a session. So first of all, it's just instrumental. This beautiful, like, it like sounds like a tumbleweed, and this music does. It's like the music sounds like kind of dusty, and like it's this beautiful guitar, like either resonator guitar or something that's just like really sparse and beautiful. And I love it so much. Like, fell in love with this record of this sound. Still haven't seen the movie, just listening to this score. And then I was like, who is this guy, Bruce Langhorne? apparently was a session musician in the 70s, like a session guitar player who most notably played on a bunch of Dylan stuff. And like Freewheelin' and all this stuff, all these Bob Dylan records he played guitar on. And then somebody hired him, to do this score. But then as I was reading about him in like a Wikipedia black hole, and I love it, but apparently he played on enough Bob Dylan records that he was around Dylan for a while, and they kind of, were buds, I guess, as much as you can be. And apparently he'd show up to every session with this, or to a few sessions, he'd always show up with this like Turkish frame drum, like large, oversized Eastern tambourine hand drum thing. And apparently that was the inspiration for Tambourine Man. that Dylan wrote Tambourine Man kind of inspired by Bruce, always toting around this like hand drum tambourine thing. But I just love that, like, sometimes like the mystery behind like the story or something like that can get defunct when this sort of like bubble of mystery and gets popped with like the truth. But I also love that you just like picture Bob, like this guy who's just hanging around the studio that always had this weird tambourine thing, and Bob, like, somehow that inspired and influenced like that song to me. That's just like, that's still just so mysterious and amazing. But all that to say, this record, the Hired Hand score, Bruce Langhorne, is so beautiful and awesome. And
I gotta hear
everybody
that.
should. Yeah, it's just it's really great.
See, the thing about like me and you is every time you like put something out, or like you say, hey, listen to this song or listen to this album or whatever, we like so much of the same stuff. I always end up loving it. So
well, that's good.
Not everybody's that way. Some people are like, hey, listen to this awesome, and I just like, can't even do it.
It goes pretty diverse, so maybe I'm gonna accept that as a challenge now to try to.
Well, don't do that. I only want things I want.
I'm gonna try to, recommend something.
Well, I mean, what records have you been listening to here lately? I know you just talked about the Hired Hand soundtrack, but that are just really inspiring you. That like, or better maybe question: is there any records that when you hear it, it's just so inspirational you have to pick up an instrument or like start writing or whatever? Is there anything that just inspires you like that?
Yeah. Oh man, so much. Trying to think. So my last record buying spree was here in Denver, our hometown shop, Twist and Shout. Shout out to Twist and Shout in Denver. Love it. And I went and like I had some things, like I have some records I'm always looking for, like so I was kind of just sort of looking for those, but then that's just an excuse to walk through and I find like 12 records on the way to one. Anyways, that stack, I'm trying to think. So I have like that stack next to my turntable, and I just like will listen through to like the most recent stack that I bought. And in that stack is a new Nils Fram record called All Melody, and it's beautiful, man. I've really only just discovered him recently, like within the last year or so, or maybe 2 years, and his music just it's like puts me in a place, man. And you talk about being so inspired to just kind of like, for me, like sometimes it inspires me to like pick up a pair of drumsticks and play drums, but like most often like a great record will inspire me to like, the producer in me wants to like get, like, it makes me think of an artist that I know or I've worked with or am working with, and be like, oh man, we got to try that, or we got to do that, like some Nils Fram like arpeggiated like toy piano part or something, or like textures in his music, and just like, man, I love. So yeah, I've been listening to that record. I bought another soundtrack, the Call Me By Your Name soundtrack, which the movie I loved. I thought it was so beautiful, and the music, it features a couple Sufjan Stevens songs, and one of which was like nominated for an Oscar. Best original song. Yeah, and I can't remember what one. Oh, it didn't. The song from Coco did, which is deserving. That's okay. But this Call Me By Your Name soundtrack is just as beautiful as the movie is, and it's amazing. It's it's not the score, it's the soundtrack. So it's got a couple of his songs, it's got a couple other like piano, really beautiful like piano pieces of like these composers I didn't know, which is awesome. So that's in that stack. Bob Marley's Soul Rebel is in that stack. And I don't really have a lot of Bob Marley. All the reggae I have is like older stuff, like Lee Perry or Horace Andy and Eka Mouse, like that kind of stuff. And this actually might be the only Bob Marley record that I own, and like a lot of people have just been talking about that one, Soul Rebel. So I've been listening to that. There's a Ladysmith Black Mambazo record in there that the album's called Shaka Zulu or Shock Zulu or something like that. But Paul Simon produced it, which is super cool. I think this obviously came after Graceland. Like Ladysmith Black Mambazo is this African or choir group, choral or like vocal group that are featured on Paul Simon's Graceland. Like all of that stuff is them. And so this record must have come after Graceland. Paul produced a record of theirs, and it's just like puts a smile on your face. It's like so, their voices are so beautiful, and I love it. Then Laura Marling record. She's this like beautiful, I think she's English, British, like folk singer, like total, like the closest to Joni Mitchell that I've heard in anyone recently. This record's called I Speak Because I Can. It was produced by Ethan Johns, who's one of my favorite producers of like that sort of like guitar, just acoustic guitar and a voice thing, like Ryan Adams and Ray LaMontagne and all that stuff. And so this record is great. Her voice is incredible, and like the production's super raw and awesome. Marcus Mumford's on it because I think they were either dating or married or something. I don't know, but I think he just plays guitar on it, which is really cool. That record's awesome. I bought another copy of Pearl Jam's No Code, which is I have that tattooed on my leg because they're one of my favorite bands, and for some reason that album is, of all of theirs, is like one of my favorites. Not because it's one of their best, but I just like left maybe just time and place in life, like you were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
And that record actually, Pearl Jam's No Code, sort of like is the best representation. It embodies what's so great about the format of vinyl, because you have like the cover of the album features all these different Polaroid pictures, like this huge grid of all these different pictures. And then in the liner notes, this was the same for the CD version. I don't think the cassette, I don't know, but the CD version is the same. But in the liner notes, there's this sleeve and then these like individual, like 7 or 8 different quote unquote Polaroid pictures, like different sleeve, pieces of paper that would have the lyrics. Like if you flipped over a Polaroid, you picture what the back of a Polaroid looks like. It's like black, sort of like, and then Eddie's handwriting of lyrics on the back of the Polaroid, and then the picture on the front. And but the vinyl format's obviously like they're as big as like a record, but then there's 4 different versions. So one version has some pictures, and then the other version has different ones, and then like there's 4 different versions, and they're nicknamed like the record's called No Code, so there's 4 different versions are like C, and then the O version, the D version, the E version. And I'm getting real deep nerdy here on my Pearl Jam
for it, man.
vinyl, but I have 3 of them. I think I'm missing the E because I love it, but it's also,
so you have the original. So you have 3 original press. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I hate so much this because like when I was a kid, I know I listened to Nirvana. I fell in love with Nirvana when I was a kid, and I know that interviews and stuff I read, I knew that Kurt Cobain hated Pearl Jam or whatever. He probably really didn't, but
Right.
anyways, so I was like, I'm not gonna listen to Pearl Jam. Nirvana's better, and I never listened to him. Literally, never. And when I was like 21 or 22, I was sitting at home, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna listen to Pearl Jam. I'm gonna go for it.
Today's the day.
Today's the day. And I listened to it, and I actually had. It's funny. I just bought a collection that had a first pressing of 10 in it, and I listened to it, and I was like, oh, I was so wrong. So like I was like, I could not believe how awesome it was, and how I never listened to it because I was just like Team Kurt Cobain, and I just didn't.
Yeah.
So like now. I love Pearl Jam so much, but like some of those albums like No Code and
Versus.
No, Versus I'm totally like I've been all over that, but like Binaural and like a couple of the ones after that, I just recently got them all, so I have them all. I'm just kind of getting through them, trying to listen to them because like Versus, 10, Vitalogy, those I was like, man, I've just wore those out, but so I know that you're a producer, and you I'm sure you still do like some session work with drums and stuff. Do you play anything else?
Not really. Like my friends make fun of me because the only song I know how to play on guitar is Blackbird by the Beatles, and so I'll always be like, hey guys, check out this, I'm working on this new song here. I was just like noodling around the guitar, what do you think of this little thing? I was like, whatever, it's my dad joke. But no, I don't play any other instruments. I just play Blackbird. Yeah. Hey, there you go. Exactly. That's it.
Yeah, I love it.
That's as far as I can get to. Yeah.
I can get through it. I just didn't want to bore you since you're the Blackbird pro.
No, but just drum. Yeah, just drums.
Yeah, that's cool. That's pretty. It's not. It's better than like, Iron Man or whatever that all the kids play. That's their first. That's funny. So, but what are you currently working on? I know you're always a part of some sort of side project or something.
I've got like a lot of really cool stuff going on. Some since the Fray became a little more inactive and sort of took the back burner in my schedule and creative head. I love producing. I love being in the studio with other artists, and I never have had a lot of time to devote to that or to hone that craft. I've known that I'm pretty good at it and that I love it. I just never really spent a lot of time like digging into it and getting better. So I've been doing that here in Denver with some artists and just like some friends that I've known for a while who are songwriters or have bands or whatever, or then just also like people I just discover in Denver and like convince them that they should let me record them and that they should listen to all my ideas. And sometimes for some reason some of them do. And so there's an artist in Denver named Hunter Burnett. He and I have been working together. Another really good friend here named Holly Lovell. There's a folk duo, husband-wife duo called All Right, and I did some work with them. This guy named Blake Brown, his band's called Blake Brown, the American Dust Choir. Worked with him a bit, and so been doing that. And then me and a friend started this like house show concert series. It's like a house show on steroids. It's kind of like a intimate house show where it's like everyone's just invited. Like we send out email invites and we do like BYOB, but then we like multi-track it to Pro Tools, record it, and then film it. We have like through our community here in Denver, like this amazing videographer named Kelly McGelkey, and he came out and like did like a 4-camera professional shoot of it, and with the intent of kind of putting that content up online. So it's kind of like a live studio session, but we do it like Rider in the Round. So these 3 artists sit up front the whole time, and then they're backed by a house band that I'm in.
Wow.
With my friend Eric, and then like a revolving cast of other like Denver players and musicians. And it's just awesome. Like it's so cool. And we've only done one, but then we're doing the second one in in a few weeks. We do it at my friend's studio. It's called Slasho Studios, and so we just call it the Slasho Sessions. But so yeah, we've been working on that, and kind of like that's growing legs, which is cool, taking on a life of its own, which is really neat. So we're doing that, and then I have a music licensing company that I run as well with a few other friends here in Denver. My friend Sean King, who plays drums in Devotchka, which is another like Denver. They're from Denver originally, but they did that a lot of the music for that movie Little Miss Sunshine.
Oh yeah.
But they're a fantastic band, and Sean and I have known each other for a while. So he and I, and then two other friends, Jeff and Ted, the four of us started this licensing company called Color Wheel Music. And so we're essentially just doing, most of what we've done so far has been like custom music for advertising, but we utilize our sort of vast network of friends and musicians and bands, like guys that are in bands and like on tour, or sidemen, or just like friends at home who have day jobs and then are like the best like guitar player in Denver. Like they get done selling mattresses, and then we get them to come in and record this guitar track for something. You know, it's like
that's
it's
awesome.
all of those. Yeah, all those kind of guys. So we utilize that whole community to like meet the need of these ad agencies around the country, and so we've been doing that for a couple years now, and it's cool. It's a neat way to sort of like provide a little more like sustainable income and sort of like inflate the local economy of like the working class musician. It's like what's not sexy about the music industry, but actually makes it like a potentially viable and sustainable career path for somebody who's not like wearing leather pants on stage. You know, it's
like the sexy, you know, the sexy men are the ones, you know, that are ripped with the leather pants, but the ones that do the laundry and the dishes, those are the real sexy men. I like to think, you know.
Exactly.
At least to the women's standards. That's what my wife says to make me feel better.
That's true.
But anyway.
So, yeah.
But,
no, it's true, man. It's like it's the day to day, and I think
man.
that's especially in the music industry. Like, you know, people look at people like me who've had a little bit of success and like have been on TV, and like and then rightfully so. I did this when I was a kid, but you see that and you're like, man, that must be what it means to succeed in the music business. And in some capacity, they're right. But there are so many other ways to quote unquote succeed and to make a living that's sustainable, and you can provide for, you know, take your wife to dinner and buy diapers for your kids. It's like there's other ways to do that, and so it's been cool for us to dig into that and provide some of that opportunity for
and like also just to be fulfilled. Like, you know, I mean, when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I didn't take my SATs because I knew I was going to be a rock star. I wouldn't need it. You know.
Yeah, right.
And,
I
actually did need it because the whole rock star thing didn't pan out. But but anyways, like I had hair down to my waist, and I was like, "Don't need it. I'm gonna be rock
don't need
star.
it. I have hair.
I have a great head of hair, which I no longer have a great head of hair. But anyways,
that's your problem, bro.
But I can still shred, so you know. But yeah, so that's really cool. I love that. That's really awesome. I mean, that's a service to the music community that, you know, people that have, you know, they still have an artistic ability, you know, to be able to have an outlet and also to contribute to society. That's great, man. I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I love that.
Yeah.
And then, the last thing, I've done a little bit of session work, like as a drummer, and I'd like to do more, but I just haven't really had the time. And it's also like, there isn't really a culture for that in Denver, which I hope to change, but it's not like, I feel like if I lived in Nashville, I would be doing that a ton. Like any time I'm home, I would be going into the studio and playing on records. Like I have a bunch of friends there who do that. And then guys in LA obviously do the same thing. There's like, that doesn't really happen in Denver. But I'm building out a home studio for myself in a new house I just bought. And so I would like to get like, just have mics set up on a kit all the time, and then be able to like, record tracks and then upload them and, you know, share files with whoever, really. Yeah. And that's something I'd like to get into more, because I think it would help me be a better drummer. So,
man, I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you today.
Yeah, you too, bro.
We got so much to talk about, man. We'll do it. We'll do it again for sure.
That would be awesome. Thanks so much for having me on here, man, and thanks for all the records you've supplied me and probably will continue to.
Well, I'm your guy, so anytime
you are,
anytime you need anything, holla at me, and I'll do what I can. Cool, man.
I love it, man.
All right, well,
great chatting.
See you later, man. Bye. All right, guys, that was my conversation with Ben. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Just a reminder that all the music used on this episode is courtesy of our good friend Chris Miller, who was in episode 3, and his project Firefighter. So check that out. The link is in the show notes of this podcast. Stay tuned. There's a little bit more to this conversation, and I feel like it might show up somewhere. So just keep that in mind, and in the future, if you like this conversation, you might get to hear the rest of it. So hope you guys had a great time. I know I did, and we'll see you next time for Vinyl Biography.